Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be reacting to a brand new video. And that video, of course, is what did ancient Indian cities actually look like by Odd Compass? Brand new Odd Compass video. Odd Compass makes absolutely fantastic videos. Highly recommend the channel. Please go make sure to subscribe, to like the video, to watch the video. And yeah, he's gonna show us what ancient Indian cities look like. I can imagine ancient cities in like other parts of the world, what they look like. I know what like modern day Indian cities look like because I play a lot of Geoguessr, right? So I kind of have a good idea, understanding of that. But like when it comes to like ancient Indian cities, what exactly did an ancient Indian city look like? I mean, I'm assuming there was like a big market, like a big bazaar, right? And I'm like, this is I'm talking about like big cities, right? A big market, big bazaar. Depending on the location, you have those like big step wells. But like, what do the houses look like? What do the roads look like? Like, I can't formulate that in my mind. So hopefully we'll get that answer here today, right? For many people, ancient India is faceless, shapeless. The general public doesn't have a strong understanding of what its prosperous cities would have looked like, or even what sort of facilities the average citizen would use, or what sort of activities the average citizen would engage in. In this video, we take a closer look at many of the aspects that comprise an ancient Indian city, from taverns to toilets to public baths, courtyard houses, restaurants, and more. With the help of our team of archaeological historians, we dive deep so that we can get a better sense of ancient Indian cities. Whoa, look, he lists all of his sources here. That's fantastic. Wow, okay. So yeah, we have the Indian subcontinent right here. All parts of it, all of it is included, which is awesome. So shall we get into it? Now, I will preface this by saying I watched like 5 seconds of this in a previous video. Go check that out. Um, check out the 5 seconds that I watched before. No, go check out the other videos on the channel. Um, but I know at the very beginning he's like, "Oh, when people see Roman cities, they think of like marble. Roman cities weren't actually white marble. I mean, they had marble, but it was all painted. It's just with time the painting went away. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just throwing that out there. The very first thing. Anyways, you know what? We should just get into it. I'm rambling. We just
Indian history has a big
let's,
Indian history has a big problem.
a big
Cities
problem.
are faceless, shapeless. If I talk about ancient Rome, your imagination will construct marble columns and cobblestone facades.
They didn't. Ancient Rome did not look like this. Ancient Rome did not look like this. Ancient Rome was colorful. There was dyed. Everything was dyed and painted. It wasn't white marble. It wasn't white walls. It's only white now because of the erosion of time on the paint and pigments themselves. Anyways,
Wine bars and togas. In a sense, you can see it. Good for Rome. But what about India? What did
I don't know.
ancient Indian cities actually look like? And how
No
did people
clue.
live? Thus far, popular media has done a poor job showing it. Well, that's
I don't think I've ever even seen like ancient India in media. At least not here in the West.
about to change right now. Today, we're going to reconstruct a hypothetical ancient Indian city from scratch,
Sweet.
using both archaeological evidence and the written record as a guide.
That's actually pretty
First,
cool.
let's address the elephant in the room. Where have all the ruins gone? Not
They,
just
they they were destroyed by the invaders. All the towns and the temples were destroyed and paved over and reused.
temples and forts, but structures that define the everyday lives of normal citizens. Houses, taverns, docks, libraries, hospitals, markets. These are the structures that could help us envision India's bustling ancient cities. So why has most of it just disappeared? Though the most dramatic explanations center on invasions, fire and plunder and other atrocities, they don't tell the full story.
I wonder if it's just because the material that they used didn't last through the ages. I mean, if you think in like ancient India, I mean, how ancient are we talking? Are we talking like, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago? And if that's the case, if like say they used a lot of like wood, would that have lasted that long? I don't know.
Lack of ruins can actually be blamed on two main culprits: perishable materials and repurposed materials. Throughout Indian history, wood, mud brick, and stucco were used to build everything from arenas to houses and markets.
Interesting,
Many of which
okay.
were beautifully carved, tiled, and painted. But these materials are vulnerable to the elements. If
Yeah.
not properly maintained, they will rot and decay and collapse. And in the event of a fire, they will burn. These structures almost never survive for more than a few centuries, leaving us with nothing but a few stone ruins surrounded by empty plots of land. That being said,
Interesting.
even stone buildings were destroyed so that the materials could be reused elsewhere. After a period of political upheaval, entire cities might be torn down, the stone repurposed for new buildings, ruins cleared to make room for pastures, and unused infrastructure turned into quarries. Temples and other religious structures were the few to avoid this removal-reuse paradigm. But this gives us an incomplete picture. Because most of what we see today are ancient temples and monasteries, we tend to paint Indians as a one-dimensional spiritual people. Got all that context? It's time to build an ancient...
That's interesting. I never thought of it like that. Like what stood the test of time are these temples and monuments, right? So yeah, of course India gets attributed as being like a very spiritual, like guru centered, society all throughout its history. But that again, that I've talked about it before on other videos. It's like that's survivorship bias, right? Like you only think that because that's what survived to the end. You like everything else, is lost. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. And yeah, of course, like I said before, wood, the mud bricks, like the actual like stoneworks, I figured that was going to be the case, but there's got to be something, right? I mean, he's made a whole video on it. It's probably like written down or something.
ancient Indian city from the ground up. With help from our team of architectural historians, we've put together a blueprint for the sort of Indian megacity that would have existed between 500 BCE and 500 CE, an era of intense urbanization. Let's name our city Compaspur. So here's what we need to build for
Compaspur. That's funny. Okay, it's based off of his name. That's funny. Okay.
our ancient Indian population. We're gonna have to build all...
So what do we got? Hygiene and sanitation, water systems, city defenses, residential areas, food, drinks, tourism? Was tourism a major thing back in, ancient times? I guess so. I never thought of it in that sense. Tourism is a thing in ancient time. No, because typically tourism happened when you live like a more of a luxurious lifestyle, and I would assume like the average everyday person isn't gonna have the luxury of taking off and going and touring other cities or countries for pleasure, right? Entertainment, public parks and spaces, markets and commerce, educational centers, healthcare, government centers, religious services, transportation, firefighting, and police. Okay.
all of that. Let's jump right in. First things first, we need toilet facilities, because when you gotta go, you gotta go. Based on the archaeological evidence, we know that
Well, most people in other like civilizations, they typically routed like sluices to like major rivers, right? Everything just dumped into the river.
ancient Indian toilets were rather sophisticated in their design and construction. Toilets were built into shallow pits lined with terracotta, brick, or stone, and the waste was disposed of through channels connected to the citywide sewage and drainage system. In fact,
Really?
the sewage and drainage systems in ancient Indian cities were among the most advanced of their time. Primary
Wow.
sewage and drainage lines were made from brick and stone and ran along the main street.
Wait. You're telling me ancient India had sewage systems? But then you go to like, medieval Europe and they just had, channels where they channels basically in the middle of their roads where like the bodily waste like would run downhill because everyone like threw their waste out into the road. Interesting. And you know what? It's crazy to think like we really regressed during like the medieval, like the Dark Age period, right? At least Europe did, because before that you had, Rome, before that you had Greece, and they had like sewer systems. But after the fact, it wasn't really the case, right? Okay.
Streets. These were connected to the smaller lines that carried waste away from individual houses.
What, they had individual housed sewage systems in 500 BCE India. That's crazy. That's wild. Okay.
Sewage and drainage lines were sloped to facilitate the flow of waste and were covered by stone slabs to minimize bad odors. That's right, no open sewers.
Wow. That's cool.
Larger
All right.
cities, sewage and drainage systems were connected to rivers or other water bodies where waste would be washed away and diluted. Since pollution and contamination were to be avoided, city officials implemented restrictions on excessive waste disposal. But home toilets were just one solution. Public toilets were placed strategically throughout the city, particularly in market areas and near public buildings. Bathing was also an essential part of daily life. Private homes often included rooms equipped with square bathing platforms made of stone or terracotta. These platforms were slightly raised, with a gentle slope leading towards a drain, which was connected to the citywide sewage and drainage system. Public baths were an important feature of ancient Indian cities too. These elaborate bathing complexes were made from bricks or stone slabs that were plastered over to prevent water seepage. Some of these bathing complexes had different sections for men and women, and different sections for hot and cold water, among other.
That's wild. Okay. See, I didn't know any of this. How come none of this is known? At least here in the West, right? Like I didn't know any of. I didn't know. Wow. Okay.
Other conveniences. These public baths were often built in gymnasiums or near social gathering spots, such as parks and stepwells, and were maintained by city authorities or even local merchant guilds. That's hogwash, you say. Garbage. No, this is garbage, and cities have a lot of it. So how did ancient Indians dispose of all their garbage? Indian cities
Landfill.
developed detailed guidelines for maintaining cleanliness. Most
Use bins, keep our public space clean, but seriously keep it
importantly,
clean.
they appointed officials who ensured that waste did not accumulate in living areas and public spaces. Garbage was collected in designated areas throughout the city and was then transported to the outskirts. There, it would be composted and turned into fertilizer, burned, or buried. For example, excavations have revealed the existence of large brick-lined pits used as garbage dumps. Day-to-day.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Most of the garbage waste could be buried. I mean, they didn't have things like what we have now, where we have like plastic and stuff, where it could like send out hazardous smoke if we burned it. So, yeah, it makes sense that they would make a giant pit and just burn it all.
Cleanliness was maintained by public sanitation workers, tasked with sweeping streets and removing waste at regular intervals. Regular citizens, too, were expected to maintain cleanliness around their living and working areas. Failure to abide by these standards would result in fines. Let's get wet.
Why isn't this more of a thing? Why isn't this more of a thing like all over the world? It's like, because I do a lot of Geoguessr, right? And everywhere that you go, typically, it doesn't matter what country, what continent, what city. There's always it feels like there's just trash and litter everywhere. Why are the citizens not, more obliged to clean it up? I don't know. I mean, I feel like in some ways we've regressed in equal amounts that we've, progressed as well.
To clean and abundant water is a priority in city building. So it was in India too. To supplement natural sources of water, wells were dug throughout ancient Indian cities. These wells were usually communal and were meant to serve multiple households. That being said, private wells were often built inside larger homes, and sophisticated pulley systems were used to draw water. Water storage, on the other hand, was accomplished through the use of large tanks, reservoirs, and stepwells. These storage facilities collected and stored rainwater, ensuring a steady supply for the city, even during dry periods. Step wells are particularly noteworthy. Steps leading down to the water allowed for easy access even as water levels fluctuated. But step wells were not just for water storage and distribution.
Step wells are really cool.
Elaborately decorated, step wells were designed to serve as multi-purpose community structures.
I really, really like step wells. They're very, very fascinating to look at. Yeah, social areas, they've designed it, to be, this intricate like layout with lots of rest areas. I've even seen like people like swimming in step wells on the internet, right? Like videos of people diving and jumping into step wells and swimming in it. I mean, it's a very, very cool concept. I don't know very many places that had something like this. Like the only place that I can think of is India, but I'm sure other cultures and societies had something of similar note.
As beautiful shaded rest areas for the public to gather, relax, and play. These various water storage facilities were connected to an intricate network of terracotta pipelines, aqueducts, and canals to
That's
distribute
wild, dude.
water throughout the city.
They had full on plumbing for individual cities. That is wild to think. Because when you think of that, you only really think of like when you think of like plumbing and stuff like this, like really in the West, the only place that comes to mind in this time period would have been Rome, but India did the same thing too. Wow.
Spouts were placed at key points throughout the city so that people could draw water as needed. These water access points were often decorated with carvings and were strategically located in marketplaces, near temples, and along major streets. As for the water itself, measures were taken to ensure its purity. Boiling water before drinking was common practice. Additionally, natural filters, such as cloth and sand, were used to remove impurities.
Cool.
Houses and neighborhoods. What were neighborhoods like in ancient India? Residential layouts were influenced by texts like the Manasara and the Vastu Shastra, which provided guidelines on architecture, town planning, and spatial arrangement. Megasthenes, a Greek diplomat who lived in the Mauryan capital of Pataliputra, described the city's neighborhoods as well-planned, with orderly rows of houses, broad streets, and distinct quarters for different social groups, suggesting a highly organized administrative structure. Neighborhood bonds were...
That's really fascinating because when you think of neighborhoods, even now, people typically associate like neighborhoods, and they attribute neighborhoods to like modern day civilizations, right? Because again, I'll go ahead and I'll compare it to like medieval England again. I mean, a lot of places things were just like kind of popped up, wherever, in just almost in a random fashion. And that's why you have typically like cities now, they've built up and around that. It's like they have winding and jagged paths everywhere and roads that are too small. This is wild.
Reinforced by public spaces such as gymnasiums, baths, small temples, courtyards, gardens, and meeting halls. And these spaces were typically built at central intersections to improve accessibility. That's all very cool, but housing forms the core of a neighborhood. So what did these ancient Indian houses actually look like? Materials and designs varied considerably. In drier inland regions, houses were generally built with stone or brick and had flat roofs and plastered over walls. Meanwhile,
that's very similar to how they are now.
Lush coastal regions, houses were built with wood, bamboo, and terracotta and had sloping roofs to facilitate rainwater drainage.
Again, very similar to now.
Single-room dwellings to more elaborate multi-story structures. The most common type was the courtyard house, and it's a design that remains popular in...
I love this. I love this design where it's like it's open in the middle. When I think like other cultures have had this design as well. It's like a ring, like it's a square obviously, but it's like a square ring with like the rooms and the stuff inside of that, and then in the middle, it's wide open. You can see the sky, but it's like your own little private, area. It's your own private like garden. I really like that design. I wish there was stuff like that here in the U.S., but there's not.
India today. As per the design, the central courtyard ensured that there was light, ventilation, and a space for domestic activities. Rooms
that's
were
really
arranged
cool.
around this central courtyard, with private rooms located towards the back of the house and reception areas located towards the entrance. In wealthier households, there would be multiple stories and multiple courtyards, and these would be adorned with plants, fountains, and sculptures. The interior walls were elaborately decorated with murals, carvings, and intricate woodwork detailing. Side note, it's important to reiterate that ancient Indian cities were not flat. In fact, they were full of multi-story structures, houses included. Fortunately for the people of Compaspur, ancient Indian cities were thriving hubs of entertainment. Theaters were typically located near the city center or the royal palace and adhered to principles outlined in texts like the Natya Shastra, which provided detailed guidance on stage dimensions, acoustics, and seating.
That's really
Theaters
cool.
had a raised stage with a backdrop for actors to change costumes, and seating was arranged in a semicircular or rectangular pattern around.
It's wild. I mean, this is the most efficient. This is the most efficient like style of theater of amphitheater. Is that what it's called? An amphitheater? Because I mean, this is the way it is like all across the world. It's crazy how things can be so similar. But I guess we're all humans, right? We all can come to the same conclusion with enough time and practice.
Around the stage, allowing the audience to have a clear view of the performance. Larger theaters could accommodate several thousand spectators at once. Looking to spend quality time with beautiful people? Indian cities were built with specialized red.
Nah, dude, I need true love, but I'll settle for lust, I guess. Were brothels a big thing?
Light districts for adult entertainment for people. Indian cities were built with specialized red light districts for adult entertainment. These districts
You know what I found out recently? I found out recently prostitution's legal in Australia. Go figure. I had no idea that prostitution was legal in Australia. Yeah, so anyways, I booked my flight to Australia here in the next week. So videos will slow down. You know, off topic, right? I didn't. Oh, we're just gonna get back to the video, okay?
Marketplaces or along busy thoroughfares and were marked by elaborate gateways. Red light districts were vibrant nightlife hubs and featured taverns, gambling houses, and other venues for adult entertainment.
Other venues?
They also included well-constructed homes and salons where courtesans entertained their guests. Courtesan spaces were designed to provide an elegant and inviting environment. For example, salons featured spacious reception rooms, courtyards, and private chambers, and were adorned with luxurious furnishings, artworks, and musical instruments. Sports were an essential pillar of entertainment in ancient India.
Sports? What are some ancient Indian sports? I'm trying to think if I remember, if I know any, but I really don't. I guess we'll find out.
Fighting pits were among the most
Fighting
common
pits,
arenas.
okay. Wrestling, yeah. Well, I was gonna like the only thing that came to my mind was like the wrestling in the fighting specifically. You know, different areas of India they had. I mean, like martial arts like originated in India, so.
They were essentially leveled grounds where wrestlers and boxers could compete, and this area was surrounded by raised platforms and terraced stands for spectators. Meanwhile, chariot races and horse races were
that
held
makes
on
sense.
purpose-built
Okay.
tracks, similar to the hippodromes of the Greco-Roman world. The tracks were often encircled by low walls to keep spectators safe. Cities were also dotted with gymnasiums. Facilities included training equipment, bathing areas, and open
They had
courtyards for sport.
they have those the big maces, right, where they do the Hanuman. Is that what it's called? Who's the deity called? I can't remember the deity's name. I'm so sorry, guys. But yeah, the big maces where they twirl it around. I want to get one of them.
Activities. But gymnasiums were not just for physical training. They were social hubs where men gathered to discuss everything from philosophy to politics. Truly great cities are designed with public spaces in mind. Ancient India was no exception. Town squares were central to the social and commercial life of ancient Indian cities. They were located at the crossroads of major streets and served as focal points for public gatherings and activities. Smart design enhanced these aspects. Town squares were open and spacious, paved with stone, and were adorned with pillars, statues, and gateways for both decorative and symbolic purposes, and trees were planted to provide shade. Importantly, town squares were multifunctional spaces. Certain sections might be reserved for public meetings and performances, while other sections were designated as pop-up marketplaces with a variety of stalls. The bustling atmosphere of these spaces made them popular social hubs. People from different walks of life would gather to trade, gossip, and discuss the news of the day.
it's kind of sad that this really isn't a thing anymore. It really is. At least not here in the U.S. Like you don't have. I guess what the equivalent of something like this would be like the mall, right? But malls have way gone out of fashion here in the U.S. Most malls are shut down, or have been shut down. They are shut down or starting to get shut down. Even as soon as 10, 20 years ago. Like the mall is like a dying concept here in the U.S. Like public spaces where you can just gather and shop and hang out isn't really a thing here anymore.
Public parks and gardens were common features in ancient Indian cities, providing an additional space for relaxation, exercise, and socializing. They were also venues for community events, such as fairs and festivals. These spaces were meticulously maintained and incorporated a variety of elements: benches, pavilions, elaborately carved fountains, manicured lawns, groves of trees, flowering plants, shaded walkways, ponds, and lakes. Foreign visitors to India were extremely impressed. In his writings, the
I'm
Chinese monk
impressed.
Xuanzang gushed about how scholars would go for strolls and engage in discussions amidst the well-maintained greenery. Markets and commerce. Urban markets were central to the economic life of ancient Indian cities. Markets were housed in large, open-air courtyards surrounded by a dense thicket of shops and stalls, made of wood primarily, and the ground was paved to accommodate heavy foot traffic.
That's so cool.
Interestingly, markets were often walled and gated, with guards stationed at the exits to provide security and
Whoa,
collect
really?
tolls. Different areas were designated for different goods. The atmosphere of these ancient markets was lively, haggling was common, and the air filled with the sound of merchants calling out to customers and the clatter of goods being exchanged. And in the event of a dispute, the parties involved could use one of the special courts established within or near marketplaces. Beyond markets, ancient Indian cities had specialized commercial districts for certain trades and industries. For example, there would be zones for pottery, metalwork, and textile production. These specialized districts featured rows and rows of workshops and warehouses where artisans produced and stored their goods, respectively. And the presence of decorative motifs on doorways and windows suggests that, even in these industrial areas, aesthetics were not entirely neglected. Commercial districts were often managed by guilds, which also played a significant role in regulating trade and maintaining quality standards. The physical presence of guild halls underscores their importance. The earliest references to healthcare facilities come from Buddhist sources, which mention the establishment of hospitals funded by rulers and wealthy patrons. Hospitals were designed with multiple wards, each catering to different types of ailments.
Yeah, when it comes to like hospitals and whatnot, a lot of people think that the ancient world was very uncivilized and didn't know how to treat people. But there's a lot of like different homeopathic remedies that they've used that are effective, right? That are still being used, and there's clear evidence like throughout most of the world where the ancient civilizations did take care of their sick or their elderly. They've repaired set bones and attributed and tried to help with illnesses. So it's just that like most people these days don't think that the ancient world was like that.
For example, we know that there were separate wards for surgical cases, infectious diseases, and general care. These buildings typically included open courtyards, shaded verandas, and well-ventilated rooms. Notably, hospitals in ancient India served as training centers for medical students so that they could gain hands-on experience under the supervision of older physicians.
Very similar to today.
There were also smaller healthcare centers for minor ailments. Clinics and herbal dispensaries offered outpatient care. These clinics were run by practitioners who were trained in different branches of Ayurvedic medicine. More specialized medical facilities existed too. For example, surgical centers were established in larger cities. The famous ancient Indian physician Sushruta, often called the father of surgery, described the procedures performed at these centers, which included cataract surgery, rhinoplasty, and orthopedic surgery.
Cataract surgery? Rhinoplasty is like literally like where it's like a form of like plastic surgery. Cataract surgery is your eye. They like cut the lens of the eye and get rid of like the spots. What? How?
Worth noting, free medical care was extended to all citizens.
That's good.
Interestingly, Megasthenes found it odd that Indians had access to medical care regardless of their wealth or status, which was unlike anything he had seen in his Greek homeland. By the late Vedic period, large-scale educational institutions began to emerge in India's urban centers, sometimes attached to religious complexes, sometimes not. Based off student registration records, we know that universities like Takshila and Nalanda attracted students from across India, Central Asia, China, and Southeast Asia.
That's
Universities were
that's
not
that's crazy to think about. I mean, we're talking, 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago. And you have these people from how far away coming to India? Like my whole concept, like ever since I started learning about India, like my whole concept of like what was known about the world and how traveled people were, it's just completely just, I don't know. It's just out the window, man. Wow. Okay.
Across India, Central Asia, China, and Southeast Asia. Universities were not organized in a single building, but were instead a collection of colleges and schools spread across the city, each specialized in certain fields of study, such as medicine, law, mathematics, military science, and the arts. University structures included large lecture halls, libraries, and even residential quarters for students and teachers. In addition to formal educational institutions, ancient Indian cities had public libraries and informal centers of learning. These libraries were often attached to temples, palaces, or other significant buildings, and were accessible to both scholars and the general public. Public libraries were housed in large, well-ventilated buildings, with environments carefully designed to preserve the collection of palm leaf and bark manuscripts. The interior structure included reading rooms, as well as open spaces for group discussions and lectures. Government buildings. In ancient India, palaces were more than just royal hangouts. They were hubs of government, abuzz with state business. Indian palaces were architectural marvels. In Pataliputra, for example, the main palace was made of polished wood and was decorated with carvings and inlays of gold and precious stones. Grand entrances, large courtyards, and impressive gateways reinforced royal authority.
Made out of
Palace
wood,
complexes were expansive, comprising several buildings, among them the king's private quarters and administrative offices, the treasury, and the assembly hall, which was a venue for council meetings and other official gatherings. Most importantly, the palace complex housed royal courts, with judges presiding over both civil and criminal disputes. But palace complexes were not the only source of governance. Administrative offices dotted the landscape of Indian cities. There, the day-to-day operations of the state were managed, from tax collection to trade regulation. Archaeological evidence suggests that these office buildings were built with brick and stone and features storage areas for sensitive documents, as well as spacious halls for conducting official business. Between 500 BCE and 500
I keep saying wow. Like I'm like, but it's true. Like I'm stunned. Like I'm genuinely stunned by this knowledge that I'm learning. How just more advanced ancient India was than I would have imagined. This is more advanced than many ancient civilizations. Wow.
Cities across the subcontinent saw the construction of numerous temples, stupas, monasteries, and other religious structures for its various faiths. These were not just places of worship, they were vibrant centers of community life and education. Each religious complex involved its own unique layout, with decorative towers, shrines, ritual halls, courtyards, and walking paths. That being said, certain aspects of the design had shared elements. For example, these structures usually had intricate carvings depicting mythological events relevant to the faith. The construction of a religious complex was a major civic project, often supported by kings and merchants, and there were significant economic benefits in doing so. These religious complexes became landholders, attracted trade, employed thousands, and earned...
What was the currency called back then? Because this is like the rupee symbol, but was it always the rupee? Well, I don't think it was always the rupee, right? Well, I wonder what it was called. I'll have to look it up.
Revenue through donations. Tired of eating at home? You're in luck. Compaspur has a thriving F&B scene. Based on the historical record, we know that major cities have a thriving F&B scene.
F&B scene? I've never heard of that term before, but it's food and beverage, but I've never heard of the term F&B scene.
Based on the historical record, we know that major cities had taverns and restaurants serving a variety of foods and alcoholic drinks, from local specialties to imported delicacies from around India and the world.
That's pretty
Archaeologists
cool.
have discovered communal dining areas and kitchen spaces, indicating the presence of large cafeteria-style eateries for the public. Most often, layouts included an open front design, low tables, cushions, and group seating arrangements. These venues not only served food, but also acted as social hubs for people of the city. Food and beverage establishments were typically located near marketplaces, in entertainment districts, and along other busy thoroughfares. And if you're coming into the city as a visitor, in major Indian cities, there were rest houses situated near the main gates, meant to provide shelter for merchants, pilgrims, and other visitors. These rest houses were equipped with basic amenities, from dormitory beds to communal dining and bathing facilities. The buildings also had central courtyards where travelers could socialize. The Chinese monk Fa Hien described these rest houses as well-maintained and observed that they were usually funded by the state or private patrons. Transportation. In
That's
ancient
wild.
India, roadways were not mere dirt paths, but were paved with stones or gravel and were designed to endure heavy traffic and harsh weather conditions. Major streets were wide and well-maintained, and according to Megasthenes, there were many chariots and carts using the throughway, indicating that they were suitable for various types of vehicles.
So the major cities did have like actual good roads. I mean, it would make sense that they would have good roads if every single house had their own, private sewage system, right? Like you would have to have something that's maintained, a quality road that's maintained that's not going to collapse into the sewer. Like the more I learn, the more I'm blown away. Like it's so fascinating how advanced, like you think, modern day people, modern day civilizations, how, we're advanced, right? But, we have the help of technology to help with most, everyday things. There was technology then, but I'm talking about like technology as in like, electronics, right? Back then, it was a lot harder, and yet they were still able to, maintain this quality of living.
We've built Compaspur into a prosperous Indian megacity, but that also makes it a target for greedy conquerors. So let's implement defensive measures. First, the fortifications. These would include massive walls, moats, and fortified gates. Generally speaking, fortifications incorporated thick, high walls made from either stone or brick. These walls were reinforced with bastions, which provided vantage points for archers to dispense with approaching armies. Multiple layers of defense were emphasized, so there were both outer and inner walls. Gates were heavily fortified, with doors made of iron or reinforced wood, and adorned with spikes to prevent elephants from battering them down. The
Elephants,
entryways were
right?
designed to
That's
be
right.
narrow so that
There was war elephants. I was shocked at first for like elephants. What are you talking about, elephants? And I was like, oh, okay, wait, it's India. Okay.
only a few people could pass through at any time. This made it easier for defenders to repel invaders. Some gates were even built with trap mechanisms, such as spike pits and concealed archers, to neutralize attackers who managed to breach the outer defenses. Fun fact, hidden passages and tunnels were also built to allow counterattacks or an escape if the situation were to become too dire. Within the city walls, military garrisons and watchtowers played a crucial role in maintaining security. Garrison troops were stationed at strategic points throughout the city, and watchtowers provided high vantage points for monitoring threats on the city's streets and in areas beyond the city walls. Policing and emergency services. In ancient Indian cities, government law enforcement officers were responsible for maintaining order. They were tasked with patrolling urban areas.
Resist the warp? What does that mean? What does resist the warp mean?
Investigating crimes and ensuring public safety. And to better execute their duties, they often worked alongside local guilds and community leaders. Now, to ensure that Compaspur doesn't burn down, we need firefighters, especially since many of our structures are built with flammable materials like wood. Texts like the Arthashastra mention the presence of fire brigades equipped with water buckets, wet blankets, and sand, and public wells were strategically placed for immediate access during a fire.
I mean, that's
so there
smart.
You go, an ancient Indian city built from scratch.
Wow.
And now you know.
Now I know, man. Now I know. I'm absolutely blown away. Absolutely blown away by just how more advanced ancient India was than I thought it was, right? Like, again, you know, I started going into this channel, well, not this channel, this like segment of this channel, because the channel originally started, I was just uploading like Geoguessr content, right? But like this segment of my channel where I'm doing like reaction content, and you know, in further we go in, you know, I do reaction content to many different countries, but like India specifically, it's like I went in to doing reaction content on India, not knowing anything really about India at all. It's just even now it's like, wow, you learn something every day. You learn something every day. It's really fascinating. I had zero clue that it was so advanced. You know, every house had, you know, in the larger cities, every house had, you know, these private, you know, sewer systems, and running water, and the hot and cold baths, and okay. The link to this video will be in the description down below. Please, 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 please go and check it out. Right, where are my glasses at? There's my glasses. We're gonna read some comments. Please go check out this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please, 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 please. Um, I can't, you know, stress that enough. Please go and watch the video. What I do if I ever watch reaction content, I'm just saying stuff here while I clean my glasses. Whenever I watch reaction content, typically I either play the original video alongside of it with just like it muted while I watch the reaction video, or later on I have it opened in another tab and I have it playing muted, just so the original creator will get that view as well, right? That's just what I do. That's just what I do. Anyways, we're going to read some comments. The video is less than a week old at this point, so there's, oh, I was going to say there's not going to be very many comments, but there's 1,400 comments, so we'll go through. I feel so weird now to get modern because we became more disgusting. I feel so weird now to get modern. We become more disgusting. Delhi. I don't know. All right. Rural Indonesia is a good place to look at for ancient Indian housing style, since their houses are heavily influenced by southern Indian architecture. Really? I haven't been in rural Indonesia. I've been in rural Indonesia via Geoguessr. So I know what this person's talking about, like the look. Okay. I've seen Athens, I've seen Susa, I've seen Babylon, but nothing compares to the wealth, splendor, and exuberant beauty of the city with its innumerable riverside palaces, pleasure gardens, and water fountains. Who said that? Magthonse, Macedonian ambassador, is said to have written this in his book. So a Macedonian ambassador in Decca, a travel notebook on India, when he visited Pataliputra, the capital riverbank city of Maurya Empire, Maurya Empire, which now modern day Patna, Bihar. A lot of words for me to mess up. It's a shame that our ancestors lived such a well-organized and sophisticated lifestyle, and we as their descendants don't have basic common sense. They would feel ashamed looking at what we have become. I wonder why he says that. Well, not everyone lived in the cities. Well, let's consider only cities then. The comment is still applicable, ain't it? I wouldn't feel shame. This is usually what happens when you aren't able to protect what you have, and Indians seem to have experienced deurbanization at least 3 times over the last 2,000 years. First because of the Huns, then because of the Muslims, and then again because of the British. Not sure what the Indo-Greeks did around 2,000 years ago, whether they kept or dismantled the cities they captured. Agree the heritage was destroyed? Nah. Have you ever visited any village? Many villages of today are not the same as villages early times. When I was researching building a traditional Indian courtyard house, all the proper traditional houses were located in villages. Some of those houses were built on hectare plot size, which is 2.5 acres. Even the smaller ones were at least 20,000 square feet. The time I studied the courtyard houses in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, I'm sorry. There was a comment recently. It's like, hey, can you please not call it Poon Job? It's pun, like gun. Punjab. Sorry. And I can assure you that the scale of the houses is something you can't find in cities. Because of Islam, we lost a lot. They actually spit on us from heaven. We got some super chats, 40 rupees and a $20. One of the major reasons why excavation cannot take place in India is because these cities are even currently inhabited and people are still living on top of ancient ruins. Also, asphalt is being poured on top of it every year, is making the situation dire for future archaeology. Very true. Very, very true. Fascinating look into the ancient urban India. Refreshing to see such detailed research bringing these historical cities to life. Yeah, I mean, they did an amazing job. And then here's the research all right here. I might have to try to see if any of these are any books. I've been getting back into reading a lot lately. I want to try to find as many book sources as I can so I can read too. The video should be watched by urban planners and urban authorities of India. Wow, look at all these super chats. Holy heck. I read a lot of reference books on ancient Indian city planning and architecture. Good to see someone did such a good research and put this awesome video. Please create more videos on architecture such as type of houses and palaces. Thank you. Appreciate the reforging history for the next generation of Indians. Since most of it is forgotten, very few from the generation even consider history as a solid profession due to the hyper-capitalist society we all created. True. A lot of people don't know history. A lot of people don't care about history because they're just focused on getting that bag. This was great, amazing research and visuals. Please do more videos like this, regarding which I have thoughts. I live in Hyderabad and I visited the Warangal Fort last year, and specifically the Swawamba Temple. I know I said that wrong. And was fascinated by the ruins there with imposing stone pillars which are meticulously carved, arches, etc. It made me think as to how the temple and the inner palace look like in its prime. I would appreciate if you can make a video on the topic. At least recommend me a book if there is one. That would be satiate my hunger on the topic. I actually covered in previous videos. Okay. We'll have to see those previous videos. Imagine doing a video game where you can build great Indian cities. That'd be really cool. I like city planning, city building games, city management games, and I think that'd be really fun. No, not like Age of Empires. Age of Empires is too like RTS for me. I want like an actual like city building game. Kind of like what is that one? Betrayed? No. Oh God, what is it called? There's a new one that's like, it's called Man of Lords. There's some like fighting, RTS fighting in that too, but that's not what I'm talking about. What is, Banished. Banished. There's a game called Banished where you build like an ancient, like medieval city and you have to try to, maintain it. That's what I'm thinking of. Anyways. All right. Wow, look at all the super chats. Bro's getting all the super chats. Whoa, that's crazy. Even more. Look, even more. Holy heck. Oh my God. He's getting inundated. He's getting showered with that money. I'm going to look at some of the new comments. Because always, top comments are always going to be praise, and I like to read some of the praise for the video. But I also like to see some of the new comments where, the experience will vary, right? Amazing presentation. Hopefully one day we will see similar videos from ancient cities around the world. If there's a PDF of the city plan featured in this video, oh yeah, that'd be really cool if there was, so we can like look at the video or look at the plan. It doesn't look like it. What is this? Our new India needs to provide people with much development. We should stop copying Western structures. Not based on research. Sorry. Pre-Apple says, not based on research, sorry, but this person based it all right here. Literally has all the sources listed. Who are we to believe? See, I really dislike comments like this. Not based on research, sorry. I really, really dislike comments like this because if you're going to go and criticize and say something and say, oh, that's not true, will provide evidence stating why it's not true, right? Provide a link to something where you can back up your opinion on the matter, right? It is what it is. Such a high quality video. We'll ever see this as a series. How did Indians lose the ability to manage all the ways to squalor? The British. Sorry to say. I think you're confusing Indus civilization with India. They were in the same region, but entirely different civilizations. Indus civilization was largely Buddha. What? This person's. What? The Indus civilization were Indians. What are you talking about? Okay. Something very worthwhile video should spread. This is what happens when you allow Islam in your country. They wipe out entire identity of civilization. Europe will face it soon. No comment. Go study geography first. You added Sri Lanka into the Indian map. It was never belonged to India. Do your research before making a video. It's the entire Indian subcontinent, and Sri Lanka was connected at one point. Just saying. High on copium. You guys worship Ravana. During BC time, India was never united. It was divided in many kingdoms, but people used to follow a particular religion, and those people consider themselves as Bratavari. The influence of the Cholas, Pandas, Rashtrakutas, etc. can be seen in your architecture. What history you belong, which civilization. We don't even believe in Ravana. Okay. Our ancestors were so advanced. I'm in awe. You just made me jealous of our own ancestor. Your video is God sent. Thank you for the wanted video like this for research. Pure AI shit with tons of fake misleading information. AI? I don't know. AI was definitely used. I don't know. AI was definitely used. He needs to back up his claims with sources. Okay, so prove your info. What do you mean? Do these guys not read? Literally, he listed all of his sources. Are people just dumb? Is that what is that what this is, or just are people just ignorant? They can't click one time on more to see the list of sources. It's people are just ignorant. People are just ignorant and stupid. I hate to say it, but like, come on, come on, come on. Don't include Sri Lanka on a map of India, dog. The video makes me want to bash my head into a wall. Terrific video. Okay. Why you remove Kashmir from our map? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Let me look at this. What is he talking about here? Where's the map that he used?
Indian history.
Is it not right here? Let me pull up a map. Let me pull up a map. My guy, look at this. All right, so here it is right here, right? Yeah. If we go back to right here, it certainly looks like he included it, right? Because look, it's even. Yeah. It's all there. It's literally, except for maybe this right here, which arguably this looks like it's more part of Tibet, but it's Ladakh. I don't know. Is this a zone that's also in contention? I don't know. I know this part is, right? I don't know about this part, to be honest with you. It looks like this little bit of land right here is the only piece. Oops. This is the only piece that's not included right there. But either way, like it has Jammu Kashmir, it has Ladakh, it has all this portion up here. Anyways, Need this the city in Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed's gone downhill, man. You don't want them to ruin your history in Assassin's Creed. Bruh, modern India ain't shit compared to this. How did we let this happen? We became dumb and ignorant and stopped giving any fucks like primitive animals. It would have been more interesting had you quoted translations from these ancient descriptions. Maybe, but that is a lot more work, and that wasn't the emphasis on the video in of itself. He listed the sources, so yeah. South Asia, ancient India is Sindhu, which is Sindh today is Pakistan. Womp womp cry, it's India. Pakistan has no history. I feel like there's a lot of tension. I feel like there's a lot of tension in the area, right? It's to be expected. Greece conquered India and we built our own cities worthy of the gods themselves. What? You've never entered modern India, lol. Look for it. Okay. Thanks. A trench was surrounded outside, filled with water crocodiles 10 to 70 feet deep. They have moats as well. Great video, but are the visuals AI? He's had these visuals for a long time. I don't know why people keep saying AI. He's literally used these visuals for a very long time. Like if you go and look at his other videos, he's had these visuals, no? I think he has an artist that makes these things. Imagine the smell, less smelly than ancient Rome. So did individuals buy land or build, or did the kings build and rent it out? Oh, that's yeah, I don't know. I was totally mistaken. I thought we only had WhatsApp University alone for a rescue. Good to have a backup. What? I don't know what this means. It's highly unlikely for these WhatsApp University students to decipher the cryptic meaning in my statement. So it would say, job well done. Hangover is far better than illogical imaginations. That's not creativity. Nice meeting you here. What is this person talking about? I'm getting like all wrapped up in like another comment section altogether. I think we're done. I think we're done watching, everybody. Thank you for watching. Again, please go and check out the Odd Compass channel and this video in particular. And yeah, if you have any videos you want me to recommend, let me know down below. I was going to actually react to this video by Matt Baker, Useful Charts, The Complete History of Sri Lanka. I was going to react to that today, but I fought a very bad pressure headache, migraine type of thing, and my eyes have been hurting all day long. As you can see, it's 11 o'clock at night right now, and I just now finally finished, this reaction video. And I didn't realize this was 40 minutes. So this is going to be for tomorrow. So come back tomorrow and watch this complete history of Sri Lanka. But if you have another video you want to recommend me, you can do that down below. I do have a very sizable to react to playlist. 280 videos right now. 279 videos. So yeah, it keeps building up, but I'll get through them. I'll get through them. Is all I can say. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have a good one. Yeah. Take care. Goodbye.